Hey y'all, welcome to Hirtz Life. I'm Derek Hirtz.
One day God asked me to forgive some people that had hurt me pretty badly. And I just remember feeling like if I let go of this offense, then they're going to end up getting off scot-free while I'm left to deal with the mess and the damage that they caused. And over the next few weeks, God started to give me some revelations that really helped me out. And one of those was the parable of the unforgiving servant in Matthew chapter 18.
In the story, the servant, who represents us, owed his master, who represents God, over $2 billion. And on a minimum wage salary, he wouldn't be able to pay that back ever. And so he goes to the master and begs for forgiveness.
Please, forgive me. I'll pay you back, I promise.
And of course, God being the master, forgives him immediately. And that same day, the servant goes home and sees one of his co-workers who owes him just 100 days' wages, which is a lot, but in comparison is nothing, and goes up to him and puts his hands around his neck and demands, "Pay me back what you owe me." And when the master finds out, he's livid, because the man who had been forgiven so much was refusing to forgive for the little things. And so the master refuses to forgive him the debt that he said he would forgive, and he has him locked up. No, I don't like that. And there are a couple things I learned from this parable. The first is that when people wrong me, I want them to pay back what they owe. They owe me a debt. It could be emotional hurt. And so I love this parable because it calls out that there's a debt that needs to be paid. And I think sometimes we expect the people that hurt us to literally make it right before we're willing to offer out that forgiveness.
Please keep me at the jail. You have them have no food.
And the truth is that people aren't going to always be able to pay back their debt to me. Just like I couldn't ever pay back the debt to God. But when I talked to God about it, I quickly realized that He is able to pay back anything that has been wronged against me. I can turn to God and ask Him to redeem the situation. And in the story of Joseph, in Genesis chapters 37 through 50, we see how good God is at redeeming things when people wrong us. See, Joseph had a ton of brothers that were jealous of him, and they plotted to kill him, but instead of killing him, they sell him into slavery. In slavery, God gives him a ton of favor with his master, and he ends up being promoted. And then in this promotion, the slave owner's wife starts accusing him of doing a bunch of things that he never did that were extremely inappropriate. For that, he gets thrown into jail. And in jail, he ends up being promoted to the head of the jail. And in that position, he interprets this person's dream that he's going to get out of jail. And so the guy gets out of jail and promises to remember Joseph. But when he gets out, he forgets about him for years. But one day, the guy that got out of jail tells Pharaoh about Joseph. And Pharaoh calls Joseph out of prison and ends up promoting him to the number one person in the kingdom, just under Pharaoh. But the thing that stood out to me most was what Joseph named his kids after going through all of that. The meanings of the names of his kids were, God has caused me to forget all of my troubles. And the other was, God has made me fruitful and the land of my grief. And when Joseph did end up meeting his family, he forgave them, and he told his brothers who plotted against him, "What you planned for evil against me, God has turned it for good." When somebody wrongs us, God has a way of blessing us abundantly in our grief. I've had a lot of people wrong me in my life. And at one point, somebody shortchanged me like thousands of dollars. And I realized in that moment that, wow, I have an opportunity to share what God has shared with me, forgiveness. And how amazing and what an honor it is to be able to offer somebody the same gift that Jesus offered me. And it cost him something. And it may cost me something too, but it's okay, because I have a God that's going to redeem the things that were lost. I have an opportunity to show him the same love that God showed me. And I want to encourage us to just take a moment to ask God, is there somebody who I haven't forgiven that I need to forgive? And if there is, God, help me let that hurt go and trust you to make what was wrong right. Well, y'all, I have a lot more to say about what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't. Like, how does trust play in that? And how do consequences play in the process of forgiveness? So be looking out for those videos. All right, y'all, remember to like, subscribe, follow, and share with someone. I'll see you next week.